So I'm here in my car and we're about to embark on a journey. And of course, I got some fountain pens. What we are going to do today is try to answer a question. Can people really tell the difference between a gold nib pen and a steel nib pen? There is one pen missing. A member of the Vancouver Pen Club is bringing their Esterbrook Esty to help perform this test. Users will be blindfolded so they can't see which pen they're being passed. And of course, this is my personal favorite. Each pen will be filled with this Waterman Mysterious Blue. And of course, the paper will be standard. We'll have Rhodia Dot Pad 80 GSM. Where this is going down is at Buchan's, which is in a lovely part of Vancouver called Kerrisdale. It's a stationery store. They have tons of fountain pens. They're hosting the Vancouver Pen Club tonight. And you can see here they're only open until 6:30. And that's when our meeting begins. So each person will be randomly passed one of the pens. There will be a gold nib, steel nib, and a black steel nib. They'll perform a writing sample while blindfolded. And then we'll pass the other two pens. And at the end, they'll be asked which pen wrote the best, which was the best writing nib. And they're going to have to go by just their spidey senses from their writing sample. So hopefully we can determine if you're blindfolded, can you really tell the difference between a gold nib and a steel nib? Come with me and let's find out. Since it was such a nice day out, I figured let's put the camera up, give you a little scenic tour. I'm heading from northeast to southwest into a setting sun in the wintertime here, so not the best lighting. Got hungry, stopped at Costco. Thought I would point this out. This is rare. Someone using their turn signal in Vancouver. That's a gem. And no tour is complete without complaining about real estate prices. This house on the market right there, listed for $4.58 million. It is a nice neighborhood, but that's $4.5 million for a serious fixer-upper. Anyways, rant over into Buchan's. All I can say is it's a really lovely store. If you just need basic stuff like a birthday card, gift bags, stuff like that, of course they got you covered. It's quite a deep store and lots of shelf space on here. But of course, then we got the essentials you need for any enthusiast, especially with fountain pens, all the right paper and stationery supplies you could possibly need. The aisles just go on and on. They got cases, scissors, all that stuff. But on to the main thing here. We got all the inks. You got an ink book. There's a couple of them. So to help you with any of your ink purchases, because it's always tough to know what color you want. Having the book there as a reference is fantastic. But then, of course, onto the money shot here. We got all these gorgeous pens in the cases. And the great thing when you go into a store, you can try them out. You can pick out the nib sides. You can feel it in your hand. All that sort of stuff. So it's just great to browse in, check out the store. And of course, if you are a Lamy fan, they got you covered. But now let's get the test started and let's watch the very first nib test. Let's get it started. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
You're ready. I will pass you pen number 1. There you go.
Yeah, they're close.
Yeah, let's get you to go. You don't mind getting ink in your fingers?
And just write with it.
Yeah, just whatever you want to do. Scribble, scrabble.
2. Okay, very nice.
Okay.
That's very smooth.
Very smooth indeed.
Oh, there we go.
There you go. Yeah. I'm going to rotate that just a bit. There you go.
Oh. Oh, lovely.
Lovely. Would you say better or worse?
I like pen 2.
Pen
but
number 2.
That is nib preference. That's a bigger nib. Smoother nib.
They're all the same nib point size.
They are?
They're all mediums.
No, they are?
Yeah. A true master. Look at that. Let's just adjust that a touch.
Okay.
So do you have a
My preference was pen 2.
pen 2? So number 2 was the gold. That was your favorite.
That was?
Yeah.
Lovely.
And so we just continued on doing this for the whole evening. I think we were there for about 2 hours, 2.5 hours total. Just everyone getting a chance to try out their pens, try out their writing. I'd also let them write again without the blindfold because it was tricky positioning the pen in people's hands. I would try to correct it if it was off a bit. The pass of the pen into the hand was very, very tedious. You had to be very precise and keep an eye on it. But I allowed people to write afterwards just to see if they did change their mind, change their preference, all sorts of writing styles, different writing pressures. We had left-handers, right-handers, of course, mostly. And it was just fun to really watch people give this a try. And it was surprising how well some people write while blindfolded. We had a first batch, and then we ended up having a little bit of a intermission. The great folks over at Buchan's did a raffle giveaway, so I think everyone who attended ended up with a prize. It was very generous of them. They had pens, they had inks, all sorts of stuff. But then we got right back to business again, the serious business of wearing a blindfold and writing with a pen. Now, the reason I did this is just because I'm curious, and I actually posed this question to a couple of nibmeisters. Could someone tell the difference between two nibs, if they're both medium steel and gold, and they wrote equally well? Could someone tell? And they actually weren't quite sure. So the test had to be done. Let's listen in on some people's preferences at the end of this test. I thought I'd give a little reaction audio.
So I'm going to go with the best was number 1.
Yeah.
Second was number 3.
Yeah.
And then number 2.
So
I'll
you
say
gave
gold.
worst points to the gold.
I think I like the first one best.
Yeah, this is definitely bouncier, and I prefer this one.
This one, then 2, then 1.
I think second one was probably my preferred.
Okay. Do you have a preference?
Yes.
Which one?
First one.
That was standard steel.
Hard to say. Maybe that, the one before.
Okay.
Oh, this is intimidating.
No.
Oh, this is really nice. I do not like it at all.
No. Okay.
I really like this one. This one's nice and smooth.
That's your favorite, would you say?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So after all of that, let's get down to some results. So as I roll through this, figured a good time just to thank everybody involved. The first was JoWo Nibs. So it's JoWoShop.com. They provided me the nibs to be able to do this test. This was a bunch of fun. I've been wanting to do this for a while. Then finally the opportunity came up. I couldn't say no. If you need to replace a nib, maybe you damaged one, or you want to try a different nib size or different nib type, check out their website. Easy way to do it for a JoWo compatible pen. Also, massive thank you goes out to Buchan's for hosting the event for the Fountain Pen Club tonight. And then also allow me to do the test. I was in contact with them. They set up the writing table and gave us space to do it. So it was a lot of fun, a very, very fun meeting. And of course, mostly to everyone at the Vancouver Pen Club. Thanks for participating and doing this with me. I know it's pretty silly, but it was a lot of fun. So thanks everybody for doing this. Once again, thank you. Let's go through this. So I have it in two sides. So this will be with the blindfold, without the blindfold. So the number of people who preferred the steel nib when they had the blindfold on was 6. The number that preferred the black steel with the blindfold on was 6. And the number of people who preferred the gold nib while blindfolded was also 6. There was 18 people total who participated. This was not the result I was expecting whatsoever. I allowed people to then do the test again without the blindfold on, because that might change the way you hold the pen. It could be a little different. Writing blindfolded might be a little bit different. And also I wanted to compare. Maybe some people see the gold nib so they feel it should be better, but thought let's do before and after, see if there's much of a change. There was a little bit. Steel went down to 4. They lost 2. 1 went to black steel, 1 went to gold. But black steel also lost 1 to gold. So gained 1 and lost 1, stayed at 6, and gold went to 8. So let me give you a few thoughts on why things turned out the way they did. If you're wondering, I didn't include myself in the results. My personal preference is the gold. I wrote with it, and I was much like the first person who did the test there. Absolutely loved the gold nib. It just felt so much nicer, smoother, bouncier, just everything. Everything was much, much better. However, fountain pens are very individual. And as the results show, yes, there's lots of different preference. The original question is, could you tell the difference between a gold nib and a steel nib? And not only that, people can also tell the difference between a black steel nib and a steel nib and a gold nib. I was curious if we did 4 options, maybe a steel, a black steel, gold, and a titanium, would it be split evenly across there? Is it one of those things where if it's just you have more options, there's just more individual differences that can sort of spread out and choose one that's even more suited to that individual? So that was very interesting. At the end of the day, which is better is, I think it's the one that you like. As an example, here are a bunch of gold nibs right here. They all write wonderfully well, but the biggest thing is they are all extremely different. No nib writes similar to any other nib in this group. They all provide a very different, unique individual writing experience. So as I did this, I could tell there is quite a difference between how people write. And of course, how you write will change what you like and what feels best for you, which is what's great about fountain pens in the first place. There's so much choice. And so some folks would have a bit of a firmer pressure when they wrote, and some would be very, very light, just very light, gentle pressure. Slow strokes, fast strokes, the way they held the pen, everything was different. No individual wrote exactly the same, even though maybe they looked similar on the setup. Everyone is very, very different. Some, as you saw, would try the gold nib right away and go, wow, this is perfect. It provided a very unique experience that was clearly different from the rest, and they picked up on it right away. There was others that would try the gold nib and instantly go, oh, I don't like this at all. This is my least favorite. And in that case, the steel or black steel nib would offer a much better writing experience. So we could probably do this test with different nib shapes and profiles and nib points. And again, I wouldn't be surprised if we got different results each time you ran that. So does a gold nib guarantee a way better writing experience than a steel nib? Of course, the answer is absolutely not. We saw here different strokes for different folks. And here are two pens. This is the Mont Blanc 149. These retail for an insane amount of money. This is the Jinhao X159, retail for a teeny little bit of money. These both write absolutely wonderful. I ground the nib on this one, and now I have it tuned just the way I like it. This is one of my favorite writers now. The pen is okay, but the nib is absolutely fantastic. I really enjoy the finish on this one. Just the experience it gives on the page. It's very unique and enjoyable, just how this one is very unique and enjoyable. This particular nib here has a wonderful bouncy smoothness to it that it's so unique with all my pens. No other pen writes like this. I've never felt that in a steel nib. This gold nib, however, doesn't feel that different from a steel nib. It's fairly rigid. It's nice and smooth, but when I write with it, it's nice, but it's not very unique or different compared to a steel nib. If I wrote with a steel nib of a very similar point size, it's going to feel almost identical. So at the end of the day, I guess the answer is, well, just try everything that's out there. Take the buffet approach. Try different gold nibs and different steel nibs and maybe titanium nibs, bouncy nibs, flexible nibs, different nib point sizes. They all write different. Some you may like, some you may not. But there's so many options out there to explore, and that's sort of what I'm doing. I'm just trying different things all the time. That's why I don't get many of the same pens, because they're all so different and I want to try them all. I think that's where I'll cut it off. I'll let everyone else who's watching come to their own conclusions, of which, if you go down there in comments, feel free to leave it, and for other folks you can interact as well. I think this will bring up a lot of discussion. If you'd enjoyed the video, the thumbs up, muy bueno, hit that button while you're at it, hit the other button, subscribe if you haven't. Got lots of fun stuff coming up. Stay tuned for that, and then we'll catch you next time.